All right, welcome to episode 3 of House Divided, featuring Jared Oxendine of Oxendine Law Firm. And along today with partner attorney Christine Palmer. Welcome. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us at any time, or you can call Jared's office at 770-497-8688 if you have any questions about divorce, family law, child support, or what you need to do or to get a plan. Then that's the person you're going to need to call, is Jared Oxendine at Oxendine Law Firm. This is House Divided, and we're going to take your questions throughout the night. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, welcome, and you can call in live. The number is on the bottom of your screen. We are pre-recording this show, so you are free to call in right now. Jared, how is everything going this week?
Everything's going great. We've been quite busy. Lots of mediations this week, lots of hearings. And I think we have a lot next week, too. So we are pumping and grinding over there. Loving the law, baby.
Hey, that's a good thing. I mean, well, it's good for your business. Not always good for divorce. I mean, we don't want to continue to see the divorce rate. But like we talked about last week, this is kind of a normal thing nowadays. And it's not as taboo to be divorced anymore. It's time to really look into things and say, hey, if you're not happy, we need to make a decision and kind of move away from being married anymore.
That's exactly right. And I say it all the time, and people laugh when I say it, but it's true. Divorce can be a great thing for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are in very bad situations. They're controlled. They don't have their freedom, flexibility. They can't control how they spend their own money. So for those people, it's great to be divorced. And the social stigma is just not there like it used to be.
And you guys are both married, and let's introduce Christine here, too. Christine, you are a partner attorney. How long have you been with Oxendine Law Firm?
So, funny story. Yeah, I am very recently divorced. I tell Jared I am going to change from your divorce attorney to your divorced attorney. Yes. So I've been there. And to be fair, my relationship with Jared lasted longer than my marriage. So my work husband outlasted my real husband.
And so now that my wife's listening, there's nothing going on between me and Christine.
Yeah.
We are work partners,
right?
But she is my office wife, that's for sure.
10 and a half years I've been with Jared. Yep.
10 and a half years you've been with Jared. So you love doing this law. Why'd you get into divorce law, family law?
I do. Actually, I did get into it because of my parents were divorced. I went with my mother for her initial consultation. I fell in love with it. Like, just seeing the difference that the attorney made in her from the moment she walked in to the moment she walked out. Her confidence was boosted. She went from being super fearful to very empowered. And I decided I wanted to do that. So I actually made the decision at 14 years old that this is what I wanted to do. And I went to law school, and now I'm doing it, living the dream.
All right, Jared, you need to update the website, too, because it says all about Christine and her marriage and all of that.
It's a recent development.
This is recent. We got to get this fixed and ready to go. So was this a tough thing for you to deal with? Because as a divorce lawyer, well, first of all, he had to be like, oh, no, I'm in trouble right away. You know every rule and everything that you needed to get done right away. But is that something hard for you to deal with? Because divorce is never easy for anybody when they go through it.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from our clients. My divorce was very amicable. My husband and our ex-husband and I are still very good friends. So I did not have it nearly as hard as a lot of our clients do. But I've still been through it, right? I still suffered the emotions that come with it, the financial hardship that comes with it. And, so even those amicable divorces, a lot of times we have people that come in. It's truly uncontested. They come in, they're like, look, we're adults. We figured out what we want to do, what we don't want to do. Here it is. That's still an emotional process. So I think personally, having been through it, I give a little more deference to that now. What I used to see our clients say uncontested divorce, I took as easy divorce. No such thing as a true easy divorce. So I have a little bit of different perspective now, for sure.
So let me ask you this, because I don't know. Are you allowed to represent yourself through a divorce? And if it's, uncontested, you can just probably figure out a way to get through it by yourself. But can you represent yourself if it went to a trial?
You can. We have a saying in the law, if you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client. But in an uncontested divorce, I did, in fact, handle my own.
She's got the skills, though, right?
Yeah.
So, Christine is a practicing divorce attorney, and her husband agreed on everything. So it was very easy for her to do that transaction. But if you don't have the law degree and you don't have the divorce experience, you've got to create all the documents from scratch. You don't know how to do that. And if you have any assets at all to divide, or if you've got children issues involved, it's really important to have somebody in your corner fighting for you, making sure the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and all these other miscellaneous provisions are included that you probably would never even think about.
Jared Oxendine here with us. It's House Divided featuring Jared Oxendine and joining partner attorney Christine Palmer. If you want to get in touch for a free consultation, because it is very important. We talked about this last week with my divorce, how I messed up and I didn't get in touch with the lawyer. I just wanted it done with. You need to get that free consultation. You need to get all the information. You can call 770-497-8688. Visit oxlawfirm.com as well. Check out the website. You can look and see what Christine's, I guess, what do you say? It's, I guess, your resume or your bio. Find out if she matches with you, Jared, and get that consultation, because we've talked about how important it is to get a consultation and go into this with someone to help protect you.
Sure. And we've got multiple attorneys at the office. It's not just me and Christine. We have 3 other attorneys. And everybody comes from a different background. Everybody's got a different perspective. It's nice now that we also have a female in the office, a partner female attorney who's been through the divorce process, so she can sympathize and understand what you're going through. And that's one of the good things about our firm, is that we are very collaborative. So we bounce ideas off of each other. We all kind of work together on certain cases as needed. So, come on in. The consultation's free, and we will give you a clear roadmap of how you're going to get from point A to point Z. And that's not the same roadmap for every person's case. Every case is unique. Every case has to be custom tailored and fitted for your unique situation.
So talk about that. So if someone came in and they want to talk to Jared, and obviously your name's on the law firm, they're going to say, hey, I want to talk to Jared Oxendine. And sometimes it just might not be a fit for you. What do you look for to say, hey, this is a perfect case for Christine?
Sure. There are some people that call my office and they already know they want a female attorney, and we have that female attorney. Now, I will say, depending on the facts of the case, we sometimes have decided, hey, the other attorney in the office might be a better fit because we think the judge or the jury is going to be more receptive with this fact pattern if you've got a male attorney or if you've got a female attorney, right?
Right.
Because women tend to be harder on other women, right?
Yeah.
And so depending on what the dynamic is in that situation, you may decide that you need to have a female attorney instead of a male attorney, or vice versa. And Christine actually has I think a very funny story that she can tell about that, with a case that we did exactly that on. I started off representing this client. We won't use any names,
sure,
but I started off representing him, and during the case, we decided it would be best for Christine to take over, and I'll let you pick up from there.
Yeah, it's funny because as soon as this topic came up, I knew exactly what he was going to say.
Yeah.
It's true.
She's already smiling. This is going to be a good story. I'm excited for this.
It was a fun one. It was a fun one. A scenario where our client was the husband, and he was a serial cheater.
Wow.
And, not that that's good, but she had taken him back time and time and time again. And it's one of those, like, he suffered the punishment over and over. Like, at some point, you're the fool.
Yeah,
He's not the bad guy anymore. At some point, you're the fool. But, the court sees it a lot of times as they're going to be sympathetic toward her and see him as the bad guy. So it was a definite choice made by me and Jared that I would go in and represent him, because the playoff between me and him is different. If Jared is questioning him on the stand, it's like, two good old boys. Of course you'd support him.
Right.
Of course you would. You guys, of course you'd have his back.
Guys stick together.
Yeah. Having me come in, though, and talk to him about it, just honestly, you cheated. Yes. You cheated before, though, didn't you? Has anything changed? And, it really took a lot of the sting out of it. But then me cross-examining her is, I think, really where the big difference came in. It's kind of almost an air of, well, I wouldn't have done that. Why did you?
Right.
I would have never taken him back. Why did you? Of course, that's not how the questioning goes, but it's the theme, right? It's like just what we relay. It's not how you say it, or not what you say, but sometimes how you say it. So she came off not sympathetic this time around. She wasn't being beat up on by a guy saying, oh, well, why are you so upset? She had another female saying, girl, why? Why would you do this? Right? Like, come on, you know better. So we got a very good result for our client that I don't know that would have been the same, had the dynamic been different. I mean, overall, the kind of result might have been the same, but I don't know if it would have gone as well, with a different dynamic between client and attorney. So like he said, it's us, it's what I do with the client. A lot of times I'll ask my client, what's your ex like? What's your husband like? What's your wife like? Because it may not even be about the direct exam, us with our client, but what's going to get under his or her skin?
Yeah.
Does she hate females? Let me cross-examine her.
And it worked beautifully in that case.
Yeah.
It worked beautifully. The judge in that case was a female also. And by the end of the trial, the judge is looking at the wife, completely blaming her verbally.
Yeah.
You know, ma'am, why you could have gotten divorced many years ago. You kept taking him back. I blame you. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
And that's almost verbatim quote from the judge, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, you know, you need somebody who has experience to see between the lines, right? I mean, that is a very planned out, calculated trial strategy that we implemented for that client because we've been doing this as long as we have. We know how the judges think. We know how jurors think. And it also helps to know your judges because a lot of judges are somewhat predictable.
Yeah, and that could have went wrong, right? I mean, there might have been abuse or something, and that might not have been the part in that case. But it could have went bad to where she, like, what was her excuse for taking him back every time?
And that was the thing. She couldn't come up with one, right? She never had one. And it was always just, but he finally said, but you,
Yeah.
right? What did you do? What was your, almost really did blame her. Like, well, why does he keep stepping out? It was almost like that. It was almost like, well, what are you doing that he keeps not coming home at night? So, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, you don't think about those things, and that's why having a consultation is so important because I bet he was like, hey, I'm done. She's caught me how many times? I got no shot. I'll go talk to Jared. You guys come up with this plan. There must have been a relief for him when he heard that consultation be like, wait, she's taking you back how many times?
Well, if you would have seen his face when I said, you've got to get on the stand and own it.
Yeah.
Own it.
Yeah.
Almost be proud of it. Walk it back a little, but almost be proud of it. And he's like, no. I'm like, trust me. So we talked out the whole strategy with him. And here's why. And it was like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And he did. He just got up there and just said, yeah, I did it. Not proud of it, but I did it. This time, the last time, the time before, the time before, and the time before.
I'll put it this way. We usually might take a client out to dinner or maybe go for a drink after a good result. I think at the end of that trial, our client actually took her out.
True story.
So
Yeah.
he was thrilled.
Yeah.
He got a wonderful result.
I mean, he'd have to be at that point. He'd have to be thrilled with everything that worked out in that way because it doesn't normally work that way,
Yeah, and
does
you got to know what his friends were telling him. Man, you're in for it. You did what? So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like folklore around his friend group now.
That's amazing. Any other stories or any other clients that you would go to and say, hey, we need to have Christine handle this or we need to have Jared handle this? What are other cases that you would definitely go, hey, Christine, this is definitely up your alley. We need you to make sure that you are representing this client?
Well, I think it's based on just the personality of the client. Some clients' personality, you're just going to get along with a different personality better than you might somebody else, right? Or instead of handing the case off, even on that case, I was still working behind the scenes, so the cases are rarely ever just completely handed off, but we made
the best situation for you will be. This is House Divided. When we get back, I have a situation that came up this week that I want to talk to both of these attorneys about because I think we can look at both sides and the two people in this situation, get a female perspective and a male perspective. So stick with us right here on Extra 106.3. This is House Divided. You'll hear it every Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3. And again, if you have any questions for either Christine or Jared, please call 404-741-1230. We'll be right back with House Divided. All right. Here we go. Welcome back to House Divided featuring Jared Oxendine. And today, along with partner attorney Christine Palmer, we're talking about divorce, we're talking about child custody, and we're talking about any kind of family law that you might want questions answered to. You can call us 404-741-1230. We are live every Saturday from 10 a.m. till 11 for House Divided. If you have any questions, feel free to call in 404-741-1230. If you can't get through, you can always call the actual offices at Oxendine Law at 770-497-8688, or you can go to the website oxlawfirm.com. Jared, I wanted to ask you too about a situation that came across, and both of you should be involved in this because I'd love to get both perspectives. We have a husband, we have a wife. The husband went out of town on business, has no idea anything's wrong in his relationship. As far as he's concerned, everything's great. Well, he comes home after the weekend, and she hired movers while he was gone, took everything out of the house, left, took their baby, 1 year old, left, didn't tell him where she was going. He had no idea. He gets back to the airport, gets in his car, drives home, and everything is gone. Have you dealt with situations like this before, Jared?
We have. And so what I think we'll do, which might be fun, I'm going to kind of answer this question from the perspective of if I represented the husband, right? And then Christine can give the perspective of representing the wife.
Absolutely,
right?
I'd love
that.
that.
So if I'm representing the husband and he's walked in my office, his wife he's out of town, she just cleans out the house, disappears with the child, all right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what happened, right? And if he wants custody, I can kind of spin that story to probably get him a very quick hearing and make her out to be the bad guy, right? So they have a child together. My client's an actively involved father, right?
Yep.
He goes on his business trip like he always has. And then in the night of dark, right, she just kind of completely goes away, absconds with the child. So, Judge, we've got concerns. We don't think she has a place to stay. She's not communicating with my client. This child might be in danger. If none of that's true, she's clearly alienating this child, and she's left the jurisdiction of the court. So we need a very quick hearing, like expedited, to address the issues of custody, parenting time, and the whole 9 yards. And so that way, we get a quick hearing, right? We get into court. We make her out to be the bad guy. She's got these or the bad girl. She's got all these bad reasons for why she left. She's alienating this child from the father. And so, Judge, you need to take custody away from her and give it to my client. That would be the perspective from representing the husband in that situation.
Right. So he came in and told you his side of the story. She comes in. She tells you he's been mentally abusive. He says things. She's afraid for her life. She's afraid for the baby's life. And you don't know whether she's telling the truth or not at this point. Where do you talk to her about this?
So that's two different questions, right?
Right.
What do I talk to her about, and what am I going to spend in court?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
I am probably going to tell her, you did not make a great decision. You should have spoken to an attorney before you made any of these moves, right? And I encourage anybody, speak to an attorney before you make moves, big or little.
Yeah.
I probably am going to tell her we got a little bit of ground to make up, but the good news is I'm good at my job.
Yeah.
So I'm coming into court, and I just heard Jared's opening statement. Jared, let's be serious. You know my client has a good job. She's always done well at her job. The school teachers are going to tell you that this is a reasonable woman. Don't you think there's a reason she left in the middle of the night?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if she could have done this reason, if she could have come to him and said, look, I'm unhappy, maybe we should separate, let's do it. If she thought she could do that, she would have done it. This is a woman who had no choice. She's a fight or flight.
Right.
She can't fight against him. Flight's her only choice.
Okay.
She had nothing to do but up and leave. She's got to protect her kid, right? She's come to me for refuge, work something out, but she had to escape. This wasn't a fight, a flight. This was an escape. She barely got out. Right? She's been controlled. She's terrified. Clearly we need to work on getting some relief for her. But at the same time, if she could have had any other option, don't you think she would have taken it? She's not an irrational person. Everything else in her life points to her being a normal and functional member of society.
So, Jared, then I'm going to ask you, he tells you then, well, I've never laid my hands on her. The police have never been called to our house. I've been out working every day to make sure that she has a roof over her head. My son has a roof over his head. And she never even told me that she had a problem with me being mentally abusive. She's never even approached me. I would have gotten mediation. I would have talked to a counselor. This was a surprise to him.
Absolutely, exactly. And my next statement to the judge in response to what Christine just said would be, Judge, give me a break. This is typical cry wolf and come to court and try and gain an unfair advantage because there's a divorce case pending. The police had never been called. My client's never been arrested. This woman's never been to the doctor. There's been no physical abuse. There's no documentation of anything. But now that we're going through the divorce, all of a sudden, my client's this big abuser, right?
Yeah.
So the fun part about our job is that we
Classic
get
victim
to
blaming. Classic
Right,
victim
right.
blaming, Your Honor. He's carrying on the same thing she's undergone for years now.
Yeah.
You see the same thing? Yeah, that's exactly. And now he's got him fooled too. He's told his attorney on this. Classic victim blaming.
And so we can do this back and forth all day, right? And that's why
Right.
you actually, there's a limit on how many times you get to speak as an attorney.
Yes.
Because at some point,
Yeah,
the
we
fun
never
part of our
voluntarily
job,
stop.
it just keeps going and going and going.
Of course.
But the fun part of our job is, we get to spin this all day long.
Sure.
The judge gets to make the final decision, right?
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
do not get to make the final call. That's up to the judge.
Okay, so now you just heard that, and there is no police reports. There's been no effort whatsoever on her part to talk to a psychologist or to get a mediator of any kind or try to work anything out. He's never been told about any of this. He has been working. He's been paying the bills. He's been doing all of that. So then your response is, well, she's just still afraid. And he's never threatened her life. Let's say he's never threatened her in any way and never hurt his child. So how do you explain or how do you bring it to the judge and say, hey, she feared for her life. She's afraid, and maybe he's a Second Amendment person who legally has a gun. Maybe he does collect weapons. Who knows? Maybe, there are other things that would make him look bad in that scenario. What would you then do?
Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, if I'm defending her with these accusations, I'm telling her, Judge, again, it was a fight or flight moment. Am I saying that I would have advised her to do this in the beginning? No, of course I would not. I would have advised her that there are better ways to make sure that you're safe, and there are people you can speak to, and there are people you can get help from. But at the end of the day, these parties clearly need to be divorced, right? Let's focus back on the fact that we can still help this family, right?
Yeah.
This is still a family unit. There has been a absolute moment of crisis. But at the end of the day, we got to figure out a way for these two people to work together. You just told me that child is 1 year old.
Right.
We've got 17 years of figuring out how to get them to work together as a family. And we have lots of tools for that, from co-parenting counseling to parenting coordinating, to even consent no contact orders, where we say, all right, we're just going to put the swords down. No one's going to speak to anybody else unless it's about this child. Nobody's going to talk about money. We've got the divorce process, which may take anywhere from 6 to 8 months. We're going to have a counsel on both sides. Let us handle the issues while the divorce is pending, and we're going to teach you both how to communicate again once the divorce is over. I always talk about, you plan for your wedding for forever, then your wedding happened.
Yeah.
That wasn't the end. That was the beginning.
Right.
Divorce is the same way, right? You're planning for your divorce, and you're going through the process. The divorce isn't the end. The divorce is the start of the next chapter.
Sure.
If you've got children, that's going to be a lot more chapters, right?
Yeah.
So